the most important things for starting a research project is figuring out what you already know through observation or from what you've heard from other people. After you have this set of information, you can begin formulating questions that still need answering. So let's take a look at my research as a way of framing how this might happen. When I was considering becoming a grad student, I went up to the University of Maine and attended a lab meeting that my future advisor was giving about her recent trip to the Falkland Islands. In one of her slides, she mentioned that there had been a fox that once lived in the Falklands, but that it had been hunted to extinction, and she really didn't know much more than that. I knew immediately that this was what I wanted to study, but I knew I needed to know more and formulate a real question in order to turn it into a master's thesis. Coming away from that meeting, I knew that I had three important pieces of information. One, the Falkland Islands had research opportunities. Two, there had once been a fox that lived in the Falklands, but we didn't know how it got there. And three, we knew that it had been hunted to extinction. So in order to come up with a research question, I needed to know a little bit more. To start, I had heard of the Falkland Islands, but I actually didn't know where they were. A quick Google Maps search let me figure out that they were 300 miles off the southeastern coast of Argentina, at the very tip of South America. I also needed to know more about the fox. With a quick search, I found out that the fox was actually called a wara. When Europeans arrived in the 1760s, the wara was the only land mammal in the Falkland Islands, and it was said to come right up to people with its tail wagging. And unfortunately, this relative comfort around humans, combined with the fact that the main industry in the Falkland Islands is sheep and cattle farming, meant that the wara was quickly hunted to extinction. I also found that when Europeans arrived in the Falklands, they weren't greeted by any other humans. Because humans weren't there when Europeans got there, it was always just sort of assumed that humans must have never reached the islands, otherwise they would have been there. So what I knew after a quick search was that 1, the Falkland Islands lie some 300 miles off the southeastern coast of Argentina. 2, that there had been a fox in the Falklands called the wara, and that it had been hunted to extinction. 3, it was the only land mammal present in the Falkland Islands at the time of European arrival. And 4, there were no humans in the Falklands when Europeans got there. So for me, all of this information added up to the one big question that I wanted to pursue in graduate school, which was how and when did the wara arrive in the Falkland Islands? This is perhaps the most important part of the scientific process. Every major scientific discovery started with someone observing or hearing about a phenomenon and asking more questions to figure out more about it. In the next video, I'll talk about what I did next in order to start answering my research question. In the meantime, keeping in mind everything that I've told you so far, can you think of ways that the wara may have gotten to the Falkland Islands?